Good morning, Roll. I'm Steve Rao, one of the hosts and analysts on Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. I greet you live from North Carolina, not the capital. And today I wanted to open up, and I apologize for kind of being absentee landlord the last few months. A sense of travel and moving away from COVID restrictions has me working back in the office. So not as much of the virtual freedom that I once had, plus travel. With that being said, I'm an honor to be a part of the team. And today, before we get into other events around the world, we wanted to take a moment and honor our soldiers as it is Memorial Day weekend. You know, I've been watching a lot of the Avengers movies recently, but the fact of the matter is we've always had the Avengers. These are the greatest heroes of our nation who answer the call to duty. And I often think about what if there was another universe where there was the United States of America, but there had been no soldiers? Well, our nation, the world would be very different. Adolf Hitler would have taken over most of Europe. Dictatorship, not democracy, would have flourished all over the world. And freedom would not exist for many of us and probably millions and millions around the world who every day live under the blanket of freedom. Living under the blanket of freedom because the greatest generation in World War II, those that fought during the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, those that fought in every war up until the present day. I forgot to mention that had it not been for soldiers, we probably wouldn't be the United States anymore. We would be two separate nations. But we stood the test of time as Lincoln saved the Union. My point is this. We need to take a moment to, as President Obama once said, to not only remember great leaders who exist in our country, but remember how they lived. And to make sure that during these divisive and turbulent times, we realize that these brave soldiers, our Avengers, took their own risk, put their own lives at risk, and paid the ultimate price for freedom, for us, and many times for people they would not even ever meet. Their memory will always be remembered. Their spirits and souls will never be forgotten, and they live on in every breath of freedom that we take here in the United States and around the world. On this Memorial Day, please, when you're going to barbecue or hanging out at the pool, at the new pool opening, or a neighborhood party, take a moment and think, would you make the ultimate sacrifice? Would you drop everything that you knew and loved to go and serve your nation? This is the most courageous and bravest act any citizen of our nation can do. We are grateful and pray for the Gold Star families who lost loved ones. We pray for any veteran out there who is ill or suffering. We pray for any soldier right now who is defending the freedom of the United States or freedom around the world. We pray for their safety. So on that note, I wish each and every one of you not a happy Memorial Day, a somber Memorial Day, because we remember with real seriousness those who paid the ultimate price. Let us remember how they lived, not only remember them, and let's try our best to live our lives with courage, never taking for granted the freedom that they provided us through their sacrifices. Long live the United States of America, and long live a peaceful world of freedom. We're now joined with Mark Lee and Nick Paladiva. Before I hop off, the main issues, as I set the table, would be the recognition of the Palestinian state by Israel and Norway and others. Biden now looks like he's slipping in the polls, moving the debates to June. Going to share insight about our John Chambers event from last week. Lots of takeaways there on AI, predicting it could be 5 to 6 new trillion-dollar companies. And probably missed out on some other things. But, Mark, it's good to see you, and I look forward to
good to see you as well. A couple of things that you said that were interested in all along those lines, because I have relatives that are veterans, and I know Memorial Day, we're usually honoring those folks that died in combat and all along those lines. But sometimes the veterans that we honor are also those that passed away even after they served, because I did have 2 uncles that were in the military and definitely passed away not that long ago, but they had served and didn't die in combat. So they actually served and died later after having lived long lives and all along those lines. And like I said, I do have relatives, including a cousin and cousin-in-law that are now retired from the military, but we're very much supportive of the military and are still supportive of the military. So yes, the military does play an active role and all along those lines. I was going to say that today is another special day and all along those lines because it's a special day for somebody that I know that you have a great deal of respect for. I have a great deal of respect for. I better have a great deal of respect for them and all along those lines. And I know that some people on the network and even others know this person as well because today is May 24th. And believe it or not, Steve, this is the day that a philanthropic legend, a legend in many communities, and one that tried to be Secretary of State but did not win. But she did run against the person that is currently Secretary of State, and all along those lines is celebrating her birthday. So today, let's wish happy 82nd birthday to my mom, Valeria Lee. So it's her birthday.
Oh, congratulations.
Today, and I know you know her from her work on various things, including the Democratic things.
Congratulations. And you raised a great son. He's a prince of a man, and I'm honored to call him a friend and probably one of the most professional radio journalists that I've had the honor of working with, Mrs. Lee, wherever you are. So, and I say that honestly with in this business. Let's just say, you know who your friends are, and then you know who doesn't agree with you, and sometimes it can get a little ugly and turbulent in the world of media. So, taking my hits in the ring of politics, taking my hits in the media, and you learn how to think quick on your feet. But
like
I cut my teeth here at Pod and Roku with Mark Lee and learned from some of the best, and I take that brand with me wherever I go. But happy birthday to Mama. And looking forward to seeing her. Hopefully, I can come out there and meet her out there.
Yeah, hopefully you can get a chance to meet her. I know that she's still done some fundraising events for some of the people that have run for office. She's definitely done some events in, even though she's a long time retired, even from the Golden Leaf Foundation, where she was the first president, and all along those lines. And of course, my parents had that radio station back in the late 70s that was on for about 10 or 12 years. And Dad will be celebrating his birthday on next month and all along those lines. So yeah, it was interesting being raised by two Geminis and all in that space. But definitely that I just want to give Mom a big shout out as well and all along those lines. You were talking about the news, and I know we're going to get to some things. I do want to bring in Rick because Rick's with us and Nick may be joining us as well. But you mentioned Obama, and apparently Obama was a surprise guest at the Biden state dinner for Kenya. So the Kenyan president is there and all along those lines. And they are saying that Biden is saying that Kenya is in line to be the first sub-Saharan non-NATO ally. So they are definitely looking at being an ally, and apparently they are crucial for regional security and all along those lines. So it does look like that is still going on and all along that kind of space. And of course, we do know the devastation, you kind of mentioned it earlier, in Gaza as Israel is waging war on Hamas. And apparently the Israeli army found the bodies of 3 more hostages in Gaza. And, we've got the military drill because China says the military drills encircling Taiwan are designed to test its ability to seize power. So we might have somebody else that's trying to seize power as well. So definitely a lot of things going on in the world, but I just wanted to bring up the Obama was there because he has some family roots to Kenya, and it looks like he will be there as well. So definitely it looks like that is going on. And like I said, I'm going to bring in, I've got Nick, and I've got definitely Rick with us as well. And apparently, because I did watch that interview with the Pope and all along those lines a couple of days ago, but apparently an Italian teenager nicknamed God's Influencer is said to become the Catholic Church's first millennial saint. So we're about to have a millennial saint. So a London-born boy who died at age 15 is to become the first millennial saint. So it looks like he has been cleared the path for the canonization of the Blessed Carlo Aquinas, because that apparently is the gentleman's name. So we do have I guess the first saint that is a millennial that's out there as well. So, and we talk about tragedies in other parts of the world, and apparently hundreds are feared dead after a landslide flattened the remote Papua New Guinea village. So more than 100 people are believed to have been killed by a landslide in that part of the world and all along those lines. So, like I said, a lot of things are going on, and I was interested, and I don't know your thoughts because I know Rick's with us about AI, and you mentioned wanted to talk about what John Chambers was talking to you about, and all along those lines. But before we get to John Chambers, what's our thoughts about apparently Kenya is going to be a major ally, and like I said, I think it was a couple of days ago, I heard that they are one of the nations that actually has economic growth because they apparently have a 5.6 economic growth, and apparently it's based on both their farming and their tourism. But apparently Kenya is doing well compared to some other nations, including possibly us and everything. So what's our thoughts about Kenya being an ally to the United States and possibly being a non-NATO ally?
Well, I got to leave in a few minutes, Mark. But what I will say before we hand it over is that I think Africa is a billion-dollar market, tremendously entrepreneurial place. I know many Nigerians live here. They're immigrants in North Carolina. They're very hardworking, a lot in science, graduate degrees. I think it's a wide open market. I think so much of my daughter is going to Nairobi in August for a press journalist fellowship. She graduated from UNC last week. So I think it's not a surprise. And we'll get back into John Chambers next week. The three takeaways I'll leave you with, and we're going to talk about it on Tuesday when I'm back, is John predicts $7 trillion companies in the next 5 years. The speed to innovation is going to increase so much that it's going to make it easier for startups to get their product to market. The challenge is in the execution, but you look at the valuations of ChatGPT with 1,000 people at 80 million. Reminded Chambers of the time when he bought a company he said for 92 million that only had 10 million in revenue. People thought he was crazy. Turned out to be a $13 billion revenue stream. He likened it to when Zuckerberg bought WhatsApp for 16 billion. So the danger is the regulation, whether it's going to be a monopoly. So you doubt the big companies are going to get in early and maybe acquire those companies and then have 80% market share, which probably wouldn't happen. But from startups, and it's a great opportunity. Over 79 billion coming in. Three companies are billion-dollar companies he invested in, and he closed out with the fact that India is eating our lunch in terms of developing their the workforce, their startups, their infrastructure, and is number 3 in economy in the world. We'll be number 3 very soon and climbing to number 1. But it's great to see Sasha start. I've got to run. Happy Memorial. Well, not happy. Have a wonderful time with your families on Memorial Day if you're in the U.S. And if not, I wish you all a wonderful weekend.
Sounds good and everything along those lines. I know that Sasha sometimes teases about the ways of Bitcoins and cryptocurrency, and I know that Rick probably has some opinions. For all I know, he may even have one. I think that Nick has said that he has one, but apparently, they Bitcoins sometimes have a face that is part of their symbol, just like we've got the faces of presidents on the dollar sign and everything. And apparently the face of one of the cryptocurrencies, the Dogecoin, has died at the age of 18 because apparently Kabosi, which is the face of the cryptocurrency that is that particular cryptocurrency, is actually a dog. So the dog from the Doji meme has died. So definitely it looks like it might have been who inspired that particular cryptocurrency. And some people are getting into that, whether it is a good one or as many people, including I believe Sasha, have said it's a Ponzi scheme. But it does look like there are some folks that are having some conversation about this meme. So I know you follow memes and everything, Rick. So what's your take on that story?
Crypto is a swamp of rubes and suckers. And like if you look on Twitter, you can see there's a huge overlap between MAGA suckers and crypto suckers. At some point, crypto will be legitimate, but it's not now. I mean, with all these little, I don't know, beans about the technology and blockchain and all that stuff. But I can tell you all these like little Bitcoin setups are just a way to get your money taken away from you.
Well, speaking of taking your money away,
explain better than I can.
Yeah, and I'll get to Sasha on and we'll come back to cryptocurrency. But it's
I
something
want to talk about Africa for a second.
I'm gonna get to Africa back as well. But I did have a quick question for Nick and everything, because me and Sasha briefly talked about it on World Politics, but I know that Nick is a attorney by trade. He's a pension attorney, but many people have heard me say on this show that I am not a big fan of certain monopolies and everything, and apparently neither is Mr. Garland, because apparently Live Nation, which is a major concert promoter, is part of the reason. Because Nick, you oftentimes talk about the price of concerts, the price of sporting events, and apparently there's an antitrust suit that apparently is going to break up one of the biggest ones, which is Live Nation and everything. So, as a lawyer, what is your take on this suit? Because apparently it's got a serious legs to stand on, and like I said before, they own quite a bit of venues, including some of the venues here in Durham and around the Triangle, and they definitely own some of the performers as well as have their hands in the ticket space as well. Because I want to say Live Nation bought Ticketmaster, and it's like 70 to 80% of the tickets are actually sold by Ticketmaster. So what is your take? And is Pod TV going to start a ticket wing, since we're always looking for innovative ways to make money and everything? So we're going to start a ticket wing if they break up this monopoly.
No, I don't think we're getting involved in that space at all, Mark. But I think the Justice Department has better fish to fry when it comes to breaking up monopolies. So the thing is, why they would pick on this particular monopoly where somebody is volunteering to throw their money down the toilet to go see some entertainment for 3 hours, I don't get it. You know, if people want to be fools, and then throw your money away. The easiest way to get out of it is just don't go to these stupid concerts. I mean, so what are the better monopolies to go after are the things they're throwing money into, which is like these computer chip companies like NVIDIA, who Oh, I'm attacking Sasha now. Honestly, I'm jealous and I feel stupid every time you get on because I should have bought a lot more NVIDIA stock, you know. And they keep going up. Like you said, they're going up and up and up, and the sky's the limit, I guess.
The sky looks like it's
Nick,
the limit.
you would like to know one very interesting thing. Just before the program started, about 15 minutes ago, I bought yet another 100 shares of NVIDIA. So, I wanted to do something today to exceed all expectations and to surprise myself that I did something that nobody ever in this universe done. And I was thinking, okay, what it could be. Okay, to buy another 100 shares of NVIDIA, there are a million idiots who are going to do that. But there is a caveat. I did something unusual with that. With buying 100 shares of NVIDIA, I sold March 2025, 1,200 call on NVIDIA, generating amount of $30,000. So I was paid $30,000, and I'm betting that NVIDIA will be way higher than 1,200. Why? Because there is a stock split on June 7th, baby. And so there will be 10 shares for each one held now. So the shares are now on its trajectory to $2,000 a share. The new ones, it's going to be $200 a share, and it's $200 a share. If I thought, okay, 2,000, it will take probably a year, maybe a year and a half. No. It will take maybe 3-4 months.
No, that sounds like a good deal and everything. Just really quickly, because I want to hear from Rick, but I have some good news for Sasha and all along those lines. And I'm definitely curious to see what he's got to say about this. But before I get to that, Rick, what is your take on this Live Nation breakup? Because you are in the seat of a lot of what goes on in the entertainment world, living there in Los Angeles and everything. So what is your take on the attempt to break up Live Nation and all along those lines?
I don't have much of it. I've never been much for. I think concerts are a pain in the butt. Really, my wife goes to some concerts and she's had some deeply unsatisfying experiences. But it's not because of Ticketmaster. It's because you shouldn't hold concerts in frickin' basketball arenas because the acoustics are frickin' terrible. If you're off to the side, if there are 2 amp stacks and you're not directly between them, that you're going to get like sound that's out of sync and all garbled, and you're going to have a garbage experience.
Well,
so my advice to people, if you're going to go to a concert, is make sure that you're right between the amps so you get decent sound.
That makes a lot of sense. But speaking of decent sound and speaking of things in our own backyard, apparently, according to the Washington Post, the U.S., and Nick will love this, is trying to downplay the role in Haiti, which is definitely over there off of the coast of the United States and in the ocean and everything. But apparently it's hard to hide our planes because apparently we sent some planes down there and all along those lines. And the gangs are controlling Haiti, just like they're controlling parts of the United States and parts of Latin America as well. And they're saying that the Haiti health system is on the verge of collapse. So it looks like we might be doing foreign intervention again, this time in Haiti. So what is our thoughts about the fact that we might be doing some sort of intervention? Because apparently some of our planes are down there. So it sounds like we might be doing some personal intervention in Haiti and all along those lines. So is this something we should be doing, or should we just let them deal with their own situations? Because I want to say that even Kenya, the United States, is sending some of their police, and they've had their own issues, but sending some of their police.
If the White House is smart, they will hold off until after the election, because it'll be used as a Republican talking point, saying that the White House is gutting us into another war.
Another war. Yep.
And which is kind of BS, because Haiti's been a disaster for 50 years, and we go in there periodically, and
Haiti's been a disaster since the French left and forced reparations on the Haitian people to pay France because they were released out of slavery. How do you like that one?
So you're not a big fan of Toussaint. So you weren't a big fan of Toussaint Louverture, who actually is the one that freed the folks from Haiti and freed the folks from France.
But I agree that if Joe Biden gets involved in Haiti, he's sealing his deal to lose the election.
Well, speaking of sealing the deal to either win or lose the election, and this is where I was going to get to Sasha and everything. Apparently, there is news coming down today on the 24th that Russia is doing some more cleaning up, because apparently 2 more Russian officials have been arrested in a widening military corruption probe and all along those lines. And this is the one that I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about. And I know you and Jonathan will probably be bringing it up on the show in about a little bit over 30 minutes and everything. But apparently, Mr. Putin has said he is ready to freeze the war in Ukraine with ceasefires, recognizing recent Russian gains. So apparently he is putting out this notion of a ceasefire, and we hadn't heard any of this kind of conversation before, according to sources from the Kremlin. So it's even the Kremlin that is saying that they are looking for a ceasefire. And I know you've been wanting good news. You say that every end of every show, and it looks like they are at least open to the possibility of a ceasefire. So are we going to see a ceasefire, or is the war going to continue?
A ceasefire, that's a very interesting proposition. And how much is Mr. Putin prepared to pay for a ceasefire? What about, I would start with $10 trillion. How about that?
He stole Eastern Ukraine. He owns 1/3 of the country, fair and square, Sasha.
He doesn't own anything. He will be.
He ripped off Eastern Ukraine and the Crimea.
Next 4 to 6 weeks, you will see what's going to happen.
Yeah, because that's what he says. He says he's ready to freeze the war if the ceasefire will recognize the gain. So, like Nick just said, they've stolen parts of Ukraine, and he's saying as long as y'all recognize that, then we can have a ceasefire.
1/3 of Ukraine. Well, that's a good question. See, that's not our decision to make, really. It's up to the Ukrainians to make that
Absolutely.
decision.
Ukrainians don't need any Putin's proposals. They will wear him down. He's going to lose this war. His economy is going apart. The Ukrainians now have drones that can fly well over 1,000 kilometers into Russian territory, destroying their oil refineries. So oil refineries, that's what's producing money for Putin to continue the war. And when they are destroying them, hey, there is no money more. So there are people hungry. There are people who lost their relatives in this war and will lose much more. Because right now there is not a single day that Russians are not losing at least 1,500 soldiers. Multiplied by 30, you'll see how many soldiers a month they're losing. What about a year? 500,000 people? Keep losing, Mr. Putin. There will be no mercy for you. You will continue this war until all your soldiers will die in Ukraine, and then you, Mr. Putin, will be next.
Sounds like a stern warning from Sasha and everything. Hold on a second. But Nick, along those same lines, apparently Mr. Putin is messing with the NATO, because apparently they're saying, according to the National Review, don't look now, but Putin is messing with the NATO governments as well, because apparently he had the removal of Estonian border markers, and the EU is saying that that is unacceptable because there were some buoys out there, and apparently the European Union is criticizing the Russians for removing those buoys and is demanding an explanation from Moscow. So maybe they're going to like move them buoys around so that they can now go toward that side of Europe as well, because apparently they are removing navigation buoys that are near the border. So are they planning to go from the Ukraine to Estonia?
I hope not, because Estonia is on my visit list. I plan on going over to Tallinn this year. So as soon as I get my visa to Spain, then from Barcelona, I can take a flight over to Tallinn and go hang around Estonia. So I certainly hope.
Visa to Spain? How you need.
Well, the thing is, Estonia is part of the European Union, and I'm getting a visa, so I'm getting a house over in Barcelona. So
why do you need visa for European Union countries? I don't. We in Canada we don't need visas for European Union.
Oh no, I can go there for 90 days, but I can't be there for a year.
I see.
He's planning to stay there. He's planning to stay there for an extended time frame and everything. Oh, by the way, there's good news from Kiev. There's good news from Kiev as well. Sasha, you're glad to know this also, and I'm sure y'all will talk about it on Ukraine, Russia, and China. But apparently, Ukrainian drones hit a Russian military factories 1,000 kilometers away. So it looks like they did some destruction in Tatarstan, which apparently has closed some of the airports and enterprises there in Russia. So it looks like some of that equipment that was coming from the West is actually working. So they definitely had a major attack that hit the military factories, and that was reported earlier today as well. So it looks like some of that equipment is actually starting to work in your favor.
So, Sasha, is it at all possible that Russia would want to be moving against other countries while it's in the middle of the Ukraine thing?
You hit it right. The issue is, as long as Ukraine is fighting, it ties Putin. He cannot move anywhere. He has to protect the huge territory, the Russian territory. It's absolutely impossible to have air defenses because the territory is huge. Just look at the map. So therefore, the Ukrainian drones can attack any place in Russia, whatever they choose. If they want to choose St. Petersburg or Moscow or Yekaterinburg or just any place, doesn't matter. They will hit it because there is no air defense available. Do you remember, some of you at least maybe remember, when in 1987, a German youngster flying the little plane landed on a red square.
Yeah, he landed his airplane right in the middle of Red Square.
Speaking of landing and all along those lines, because you said you want to go to Spain, and apparently Spain is in the news as well. I don't think it's in the news for a reason necessarily that some people on the panel would approve of, but apparently Israel is going to prohibit Spain from serving West Bank Palestinians in Jerusalem, because apparently the Israel foreign minister has cut ties between the Spanish embassy and West Bank Palestinians after Spain was one of those countries that recognized the Palestinian state and everything. So are you ready to move to a country that apparently isn't friends right now with the folks there in Israel and everything? Because even apparently the Spanish deputy prime minister was chanting from the river to the sea.
There's always contention in any country and stuff like that. Even in where I'm going, Barcelona, they call themselves Catalonia because they believe they're kind of separate from the Basque country and Castile and Leon. And so, Catalonia, I don't know what their position is relative to the rest of Spain. But currently, Spain is spoken out of Madrid and Aragon. So, who knows what goes on over there. And then they're also part of the European Union. I mean, it's kind of a mess. But I'm not going there to become a politician, Mark. I'm going there.
I know you're going to get away, but speaking of going away and escaping crazy U.S. politics, apparently there is a person that some people say is a. Hold on a second, Nick. Apparently there's a person that some people say is a Putin fan, but he now wants to work to redefine his NATO membership, because I know that I've heard people say that they are not big fans of Orban, but apparently Hungary is working to redefine its NATO membership, and it wants its NATO membership changed so it doesn't have to help Ukraine. But then he's also saying that Russia is unlikely to swallow the West whole. So apparently he's maybe trying to redefine his views.
It's all fake meatball. But see, as a tourist, I want to go to places like Tallinn. It's on the list, and Kyiv is even on the list if they'd stop their stupid wars. But for my lifestyle, which is different than most people, I like enjoying being a tourist. I like playing golf. I like playing tennis, and I like visiting cathedrals and artwork. Basically, I like screwing around, not doing it.
I have even.
I don't see anything wrong with that lifestyle, you know.
I have even better proposition for your life.
And I argue with Jatovi for kicks and giggles, because otherwise the thing is I won't wake up in the morning.
What am I looking now is the chess cruise from Puerto Rico to Lisbon. I think it's in April of 25. And that's what I'd like to do, because I've never been on the chess cruises.
They're going from where? Puerto Rico to Lisbon?
From Puerto Rico to Lisbon, yes.
That is one long cruise. And they're playing
a long cruise.
13 days.
Oh,
so there are some islands like probably San Martin, and there's Tenerife, the Canarian Islands on the way to Lisbon. But there are 5 or 6 days Atlantic Sea crossing, and that's exactly where tournaments will be held. So since you don't have much to do anything, and
now see, here's the problem. Only chess players can understand locking themselves in a cruise ship. Not to go on a pool, not to go look at the games, not to go look at the the bathing beauties, not to look at the theater, not to eat food, but sit and play chess.
No, but the game is only 10 o'clock in the morning. It's one game, so you.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to go do tourism, to go to the pool, to go do some. I'm sure there'll be shows, even though the chess will be taking place as well. By the way, it looks like Mexico's in the news again, and this time it's not for gangs and all along those lines, but apparently, as if Mexico didn't have enough problems. And I know you sometimes tease me, Nick, for bringing up the weather, but as if they didn't have enough problems, they're now in the middle of a blistering week-long heat wave in Mexico, and apparently even the animals are dying, because Rick will love this one. The monkeys are dropping dead due to the prolonged heat wave. So not just the drugs impacting folks in Mexico, but apparently if you're walking down the street, you may get hit by a fallen monkey and all along those lines, because apparently it's having a dire effect on the animals there in Mexico, because it's so hot that they're falling dead literally from the trees.
Well, let me tell you about the monkeys, because I got my education in monkeys in Gibraltar. So we go to Gibraltar, and they warn you about the monkeys. I'm serious. They're at the top of Gibraltar. No, they didn't warn you about it. But here's the reality. When you take a trip up the skyline, they have this little gondola up to the top of the Rock of Gibraltar. A bunch of monkeys will assault you. And I was going, are you serious? And they did. They assaulted my wife. They ripped her backpack off, grabbed her food, and went off to the side and started eating it. But she wasn't the only one. They assaulted anybody that came up to the Rock of Gibraltar. What happens is the tour guides don't warn you enough that these monkeys on Gibraltar, it's about 200-300 of them, are extremely aggressive.
But Jacoby and Nick, do we warn people about the bears? Because there have been cases of bears even here in North Carolina that have come up to people's picnics and have raided them, and they say to leave them alone. I was actually watching a news report a couple of days ago, and they were basically saying leave the bear alone if he's trying to take your picnic meal. And I know some people are really ready for their picnics on Memorial Day weekend, and if a bear decides that it wants to come rummage into your garbage, leave the bear alone.
You will not beat a bear in a fight. You will not beat them. Even though they only may weigh 200 to 400 pounds, they will beat you every time because they're muscular, they're strong, and they'll bite you. It's just horrible. And frankly, you're not going to beat the monkeys either. They are incredibly fast. You have no idea how fast these things are. And agile. They'll actually go on top of a cliff, which is like 3,000 feet straight down, and hang out like it's nothing.
Speaking of animals, and I want to hear from you, Jacoby. But speaking of animals, because this will explain probably what you're going to say, but apparently the scientists, because we like to see what the scientists got to say, are saying that certain animals are being bored coming into Spain, where you're going to and everything? Because apparently the orcas sank a yacht off of Spain. That's the latest in the slew of such attacks in recent years. And this one you're going to love. Scientists are saying that the killer whales are attacking and sinking the boats because they're bored. Apparently the whales are bored. That's why they're attacking the ships.
I mean,
orcas can be huge, but the only time I saw orcas was in Alaska, and we were in a huge cruise ship, which these things are orcas can't intimidate. But a small ship, yeah, they could knock a small.
I mean, orcas, they call them killer whales for a reason. I mean, they're one of the smartest animals on the planet. They have one of the biggest brains on the planet. Also, on top of that, what it is really that people are stupid. People think they can wrestle a bear. You see people walk out of cars and try and get close to buffalo. These are wild animals. What do you expect?
And buffaloes are huge.
They're sharks. They're wild animals.
Yeah, and they can turn on you in a minute. When we were in what was that, Yellowstone, we had one walk by our car. The bison was bigger than our car. I mean, it was unbelievably. These are not small animals.
Coming back to one of your favorite conversation points, I want to know how much hold a second, Nick. I want to come back to one of your favorite points because I'm trying to figure out how much did we spend on the study to determine that the animals are bored? Because, like I said, that's the reason they said that the whales are attacking is because they're bored. Because that's what
we didn't spend any money on that. That's just speculation. However, if you're a fan of buffalo, of American bison, let me recommend a show on Prime called Outer Range, which is about cowboys that have a hole in time on their ranch that causes all sorts of problems, including a stampede of buffalo across 100 years. And it's a completely insane show. Jacoby, have you seen it?
I think so.
It's so nuts. It stars Lily Taylor and Josh Brolin. And if you want a completely deranged show, I gotta recommend it.
Well, that sounds like a good show. Just really quickly, Nick, let me come back to some more serious news and everything. This has been interesting, but let me come back to some more serious news because there are some people, and Sasha may have jumped in this as well, and everybody might, but apparently there's some reports coming from even some of our networks and everything that there is a planned October surprise. So there are some folks that are saying that Russia and North Korea are planning an October surprise that could aid Mr. Trump in winning. So is this something that we're concerned about? Because this has been reported by both the NBC News, AOL, and New York Post that there might be a planned October surprise that would then aid Trump's victory.
Yeah, but we need to be aware
with Kim Jong-un or something. Is that the surprise?
No, the deal is to make the world look shittier in October so people vote against Biden. And this is a legitimate risk. We can't do a lot about it except, be aware of it. And I don't know, Sasha, you've got good computer security instincts. Like Russians crashed Medicare in February and old people couldn't get prescriptions for a month. So yeah, Russia will probably try to increase chaos in various ways in the months before the election.
There is something that's more dangerous than that. Russia just released its new satellite on the orbit where all these GPS satellites are, and they can destroy most of them, if not all of them, and then the world will be without GPS.
So internet mayhem. By the way, Sasha, that's a great shirt. But internet mayhem is so cheap. Russia spends $30 million a year to spread propaganda on the internet and get all the Western democracies even more pissed at each other. $30 million is nothing. If it was the US, Nick, you'd be attacking it because that's the budget for like an LGBTQ community center. It's a drop in the bucket, and Russia will definitely just be spreading bullshit because it's so cheap.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're going to see the big disruption in the election. It's so easy to do fake news, and it's going to proliferate. It's worse than it's ever been, too. And you can put it on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can make things up that sound like they're true, but they're not even close to true. And we really don't have no defenses to fake news on the internet. And who knows all the crimes that Joe Biden will be convicted of between now and the end of the year. And they'll just put down, Joe Biden to be convicted of something. They'll put it out in October and put it all over social media. And what I found out is a lot of the conservative sites, they only listen to conservative sites, so they don't even see what other people say. And I'm sort of, wow. So they'll buy into anything that is sold to them between now and the end of the year. But I think, Rick, this year is going to be the worst they've ever seen because we have no defenses. It's like COVID. Nobody has immunity. Because of our First Amendment, we have no immunity toward just lies.
Trump lied a couple of days ago saying that the FBI that Biden hired the FBI to assassinate him when they raided Mar-a-Lago for the documents because of boilerplate language in the warrant. Any FBI warrant says the FBI, if confronted with deadly force, has a right to respond with deadly force. And Trump says, well, that just means that in this case, the FBI was sent there to kill him, even though he was like 1,200 miles away at a different country club, and they didn't want him there to complicate things. It just crazy BS. Trump had this rally in the Bronx, and they're claiming 35,000 people showed up. Some people are saying 300,000. And the venue only holds 3,500.
I never heard of to that rally, and apparently they were backing Trump. I know one of them was named Sleepy Hollow. I forgot the other one's name.
You're talking about the two rappers he brought on stage. His pandering to the black community is more so offensive than anything, because he brings up two rappers who have felonies in the past to talk about why black people should like Trump, because Trump is in the court cases and he's having it. So you sell golden Nikes and you're putting up
golden Bibles.
Not only that, but he said that one of the rappers had a gold grill, he had golden teeth, and Trump said that he would like to get those kind of teeth himself. So Trump said in the rally that he would like to get a pair of those golden teeth himself.
The pandering he does is insulting more so than it is, hey, look, these are the things that I'm wanting to do for the black community. No, hey, I got these two black people who have chains on, and I'm selling these golden shoes, and you know what? I think I should get some gold teeth too. I'm dealing with the criminal justice system. I'm black just like you. No, that's insulting. That's really insulting.
But he may even change the narrative, maybe worse than you think. The narrative goes out, Black Americans to turn their back on Joe Biden and march toward Donald Trump.
Well, that is the
narrative out there now.
There are going to be headlines like that all across the internet, and people going, oh, I guess I should look for Donald Trump because of what was done.
And just what Rick pointed out earlier about the whole shoot to kill thing, which is in every search warrant. When Trump said that, Marjorie Taylor Greene ran off and posted that. Now Fox and all the right-wing media are putting it out there. So now everybody believes that not everybody, but a lot of people in that MAGA cult believe that that they tried to assassinate Trump. That's what Biden wants to do. That's just the way they do and that's why their messaging system is it runs like a well-oiled machine. They put out anything, and it's going to get worse, like you're saying with Nick, because we're forgetting that AI is going to play a role.
Yep.
And now
AI, they can create fakes, so it'll look like things that don't really exist.
Well, speaking of AI, hold on a second. Speaking of AI, because I want to come back to Sasha's favorite topic, which is NVIDIA, because apparently there is a new president in Taiwan, and apparently he is touting their role with NVIDIA, because he said that Taiwan has already mastered advanced semiconductor manufacturing, and we stand at the center of the AI revolution. We are the key players in the supply chains for global democracy. With every step forward that Taiwan takes, the world takes a step forward with us, and that's what the new leader is saying. So is Taiwan about to be a bigger player because of NVIDIA? Because apparently NVIDIA sales forecast topped even analyst estimates because of their role and the role that Taiwan has. So they're about to be even bigger than, say, China and India and all along those lines, because apparently that's what President Lei is kind of leaning toward, is showing that because of NVIDIA and other things, they are a major economic force.
The major Taiwan company is Taiwan Semiconductor, the symbol
Right.
TSM. And
Yes.
this is a major supplier of NVIDIA, and not only NVIDIA, but also AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, and several others. So it is extremely important company. And I think NVIDIA probably would be wise to create its own armed forces to defend Taiwan Semiconductor, because I'm not so sure how efficient are U.S. forces, but NVIDIA can create a very, very credible force, and that force actually could deal not only with threats from China, it could also deal, in Ukraine and in Israel and so on. It can really be on cornerstone. I'll tell you about, if Putin will not be stopped, and very decisively and very quickly, US and Western Europe have to reconsider their policy of democracy, because autocracy always prevails over democracy. And the democracy, especially in the United States, is not sustainable, because there are several problems on all social agenda, on all racial issues and educational issues, just anything. In every single issue, there is a contradiction, there is a problem. And as long as you would have, first of all, you would need to reinstitute the draft. There has to be mandatory military service for young men from 18 to 20, maybe 19 to 21, but they have to get sense of a country, to find something what unites them and what not.
But speaking of a sense of country, really quickly, I'm still trying to figure out something, because last time I checked, and like some people were fans of Kissinger's, others weren't. There were even Andrew Young, who is very much involved in diplomacy and everything. When I think of diplomacy, I usually think of people called diplomats. But apparently, in that whole area of Israel and the negotiation for the hostages, we're going to have the Mossad chief, which is a kind of the Israeli kind of like spy network and everything, meeting with the CIA and the Qatari prime minister. So when did spies start being the people that were handling diplomacy and hostage negotiations? Because this is just kind of like catching me up there when I see that the CIA head is to meet the Mossad chief and the Qatari prime minister in order to revive hostage talks. That doesn't sound like diplomats doing that. It sounds like spies doing that.
Diplomats have always been spies.
No, that's true.
So I just asked the AI I use to write me a press release, and it took less than a second to write this statement from Donald J. Trump, 45th president. The radical left is at it again with their extreme anti-canine agenda. Sleepy Joe Biden and the America Last Democrats are now going after man's best friend. They want to ban dogs from our country. Biden's deranged dog police will go door to door, confiscating family pets from homes across the nation. And this goes on for paragraph after paragraph. AI wrote it for me in 1 second. And if I threw it up on Twitter, a certain number of people would believe it.
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, and this is going to be the election of this year. The election this year will be determined not by election fraud, but basically by social media and media fraud. I mean, and there's nothing, I see nothing that can stop it. It's just going to be rampant throughout, probably heating up really strong in September.
Well, speaking of crazy things, but speaking of crazy things, Nick, apparently there is a state, a very bellwether state, that has to get Joe Biden on the ballot, because apparently Mike DeWine is calling for lawmakers to get Joe Biden on the Ohio ballot, because right now he's not on the Ohio ballot, and apparently even the Republican governor is calling his home state GOP ridiculous, because definitely right now he's not on the ballot. And I want to say Ohio is one of those bellwether states that determines the election and everything, but and definitely is going on in that space. And we've also got people that are wondering about the cognitive decline, because you've talked about that rally in Bronx, and apparently Trump is bragging about that he can put his pants on by himself. So apparently there is some folks that are seeing that he is going after Biden and how much he is a more cognitive person than Biden is, because there's this whole notion of cognitive decline, even though I think they both might have issues in that space. But what is our take? Is this going to be an important issue? Because apparently he's saying that he can put his pants on by himself.
All right, so
that's impressive.
Nobody does the frickin' science or math. These guys, Biden has a 50-year political career. Trump has been a public figure since the 70s. Both of them, if all anybody would have to do is take their recent statements and plug them into an Alzheimer's algorithm to see who's declining or not, based on the quality of their recent statements. And so each side claims the other side has dementia, but nobody does it. It's so lazy that this is the dialogue, and nobody actually does actual analysis.
Yeah, y'all were talking about cruises earlier and everything. Did you know that there is a cruise destination that is in the news as well? Because an American was charged with carrying ammunition and actually visited this country way back when in Turks and Caicos, and apparently they could be sentenced to at least 12 years in prison today. So I guess Turks and Caicos don't allow ammunition to come into their area.
So if you're an idiot who has 2 bullets in your fanny pack that you forgot about, or in your carry-on bag, those bullets will show up when they get x-rayed, and yeah, you can go to jail for 12 years for carrying ammo.
You know, this whole thing is very suspicious, because all these people are getting caught on the way out of Turks and Caicos, and these are American citizens. And this is where America needs to step up for their citizens and say, look, we don't give a rat's rear what your laws are in your island, maybe country. The Americans get returned to America. And if not, we need to invade their country, pull them out, and bring them home. But they have no right.
You're an idiot if you're carrying just.
Oh, I agree with that.
But the penalty for being that kind of an idiot shouldn't be 12 years.
12 years in prison? Are you kidding? No. But the thing is, this is where America needs to take their big stick, like Teddy Roosevelt, and swing it at a tiny little golf ball country like the Turks and Caicos, if you can even call it a country.
It's a small country.
Like we were talking about how Biden shouldn't go into Haiti. Biden should very publicly try to crush Turks and Caicos.
No, Turks and Caicos could be crushed in a minute. I mean, we did that with Panama and a number of other places. That sounds like Nick. That sounds like a Falkland move. Didn't England do that with the Falklands?
Well, not invade them, but like Biden should very publicly come out in support of these ammo idiots, because it costs us nothing, and it maybe gets Biden some support among people who have guns.
So just
speaking of support, and this is the last issue that I was going to get to, because I know we've only got 5 minutes to go and everything, but I was going to bring up Nikki Haley really quickly, because Nikki Haley said she's going to vote for Trump, and there's certainly some sort of vote pledge that's out there, and she's also, some people are saying that she's going to have a role on the team, because Trump even suggested that she'll be on his team in some form after the vote pledge. So apparently she has pledged that she will support Trump.
Well, the Nikki Haley thing, that's not a real thing, because she struck a deal with Trump to whatever, because he hasn't changed since he's actually gotten worse since she said that he has to earn her vote. Tom Cotton is the guy that's being hailed as who's actually going to be his running mate. In terms of the person,
serious?
That's who they're floating right now, is Tom Cotton.
Oh no, please don't say that.
Turks and Caicos, the Turks and Caicos situation with the ammo deal, the ammo deal itself, it's similar to the drug deal in Russia, isn't it?
Exactly.
So therefore, we can't really do anything like go in, guns ablazing.
No, we can't go in, but we can make Biden can make a lot of noise.
We can go in. No. They don't take American citizens abroad and stick them in some ice chamber and Turks and Caicos, a little golf ball.
We can negotiate, because it is one of the highest. It's one of the biggest tourist attractions.
Yeah, and they're going to lose a lot of tourism when they see
It's the
American
reason
Marines
we
on their
do some
front door.
negotiating and figure a way to extradite or to figure a way to work through that.
Here's the
logistically,
negotiation,
rather than
Toby. It's real
bombastically
simple. You
going
want
in.
Marines on your front beaches,
But
ripping you guys apart and bringing American homes. Negotiation over.
But the
That's
big
what
thing,
Sasha would say. Negotiation over.
I'm very confused,
But the big
Nick,
thing
because
that I
you keep
wanted
talking
to
about
talk
us
about-
invading
the big thing I wanted to
countries
point
and
out-
us taking over.
Oh,
Isn't
definitely
that
would.
what
The big thing-
Putin has been doing with
Well,
Ukraine? So
well,
you're backing us doing that in the United States.
Definitely would
But
invade
hold on a
countries.
second, Nick.
We
I'm
are the United
very
States of
confused
America,
because you have
But
said
the one-
several times that you want to take over several Western countries, whether it's Turks and Caicos,
Oh,
whether it's
absolutely.
Venezuela,
But the-
whether it's Mexico, and isn't that what we
Absolutely.
got? Isn't that what Russia got in trouble with Ukraine? So are you
Yeah, but
backing
they're not us.
Putin?
But
They're not us, Mark.
what we
Okay.
kind of glossed over, and I think Sasha brought it up when we talked about NVIDIA and what Sasha was talking about, that is actually a huge deal, dealing with the chips, dealing with everything else. Not only because of NVIDIA needing some type of security force, but also all the other semiconductor producers right there in Taiwan that are going to need some help, because China has surrounded Taiwan. And that was big in the news. They put military ships and military aircrafts around Taiwan because of the president that you were just talking about, Mark. He supposedly said some things that China was not happy about. So if anything goes any further with Taiwan being attacked by China, Sasha can tell you all bets are off, because if the chips go, I mean, stocks are going to go haywire. The economy is going to go nuts. So that's a huge deal.
So I just want to go back to Turks and Caicos with some numbers. 46,000 people live on Turks and Caicos. In a good year, they get 2 million tourists. If Biden says we're going to put an embargo on American travel to Turks and Caicos, they would poop their pants, and they would, and it would, you know, it's another one of these stupid hot button issues that has no real significance, but could, you know, get somebody some political traction.
Yeah.
Yep. No doubt about that and everything. Well, I know we're getting ready to wind down in about another few minutes. We're getting ready to go to Russia, China, and Ukraine. And I do know that Jonathan is already in the spot waiting. I don't dive in yet, but Jonathan's already there and all along those lines. But we'll have some more conversations about these important issues. Is there anything you want to add to what we're saying about what Jacoby just brought up about the possible impact of NVIDIA, particularly if China invades Taiwan? Sasha.
It's a hypothetical situation. I don't believe that China will invade Taiwan. They're playing political games. They're trying to get some mileage out of their posturing and maybe scare U.S. not to implement the tariffs on their electric cars or so on. This is all really, you can dismiss it all. It's not worth it.
Yeah, just really quickly, what's the word on electric cars? Because I did hear that one of those electric car companies got in trouble recently. I forgot which one, but are electric cars going to be the wave of the future? And then maybe y'all have some thoughts on that as we get ready to walk out the door. But I did hear that one of those EV companies is in trouble. I know sometimes Nick is not a big fan of EVs, but I also know that the regular gas stations cause all kind of environmental issues.
I think that Americans still want gas-powered cars. I don't think that America really embraced electric vehicles to its full extent. There are a lot of them, and apparently Tesla is number one car maker in the United States by the number of cars sold. But there are millions of other companies, including big U.S. automakers and so on. They do have production capacity to do electric vehicles, and they do them, but they just don't feel the demand is there.
So the vehicle sharing might be the wave of the future, that once you have a reliable way to have cars drive themselves from place to place, you know, everybody owns a car, that car sits not doing anything for 23 hours a day.
But also Tesla, while Tesla is still number one in the US, they are not globally number one, because there's a company in China that has taken over the number one electric car spot. Plus, on top of that, they've done a study people are holding on to their cars longer now than they ever have in the history of our country. I think they're putting on to, I think it's coming close to 13 years people are holding on to their cars on average. And that's what that's another big hit on electric cars. So and the combustion engine, right now the electric cars go quicker than the combustion engine. The combustion engine goes faster still. But as soon as you hit that mark where there's the electric cars being a lot more efficient and the power grid is built to where, electric cars have that unified electric drive, because that's why they hired Tesla to do everything, because it was that one uniform electric station. Those supercharged stations they have are right now becoming that standard. And once they have that across the globe, once you have the infrastructure, then the cars will take off. But you don't have the infrastructure now.
In the 70s, the middle-class American families would buy a new car every 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And American cars were crappy and they fell apart. And then Japan started winning market share by making cars that would last more than 10 years. And yet now, only fancy idiots are getting a new car every 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's why it's jumped up to
these
13 years.
idiots have to go because we got another show coming on. So we'll have to see everybody next week. Bye.
Uh-oh.